How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Hold the Line Sports channel. And today we have a very good one because it is finally here. It is week 0 of the college football season. One more week until everyone is playing, and I could not be more excited for this year. Not only because the Florida Gators are back and relevant, but also this year is going to be the craziest year of all time because of all the NIL and the power struggle and everything going on right now. Really and truly, I have no clue what's going to happen, but we're going to make some predictions because what better thing to do when you don't know what's going to happen, because you do some research and you really, really, really want to be able to get it right, but we'll see. So without further ado, let's get into it. We are going to do our conference championships and do our full playoff predictions, getting a full national champion and crowning our national champion at the end of this video. And me and Cam are going to be both doing one. They're both going live at the same exact time this Saturday. So after you're done watching this one, go watch his, see who's you align with more, and leave a like, leave a comment saying whose is better and whose you think is going to be more accurate. And then drop your own predictions. Drop the 1 through 12, and then drop your national champion. Just do it. And then make sure to like, subscribe, do all this stuff that helps us with this channel. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So today, going national champions or conference championships first. With the ACC, I have Clemson versus Georgia Tech. This is a rematch of week 3, but I think the same result happens. I think Clemson will be 11-1 coming into this game. Georgia Tech 10-2 coming into this game. Miami just missed the cut at 9-3, but I think Clemson gets it done and wins the ACC. I think this is clearly the best team in the ACC right now. Maybe a little sleeper in Georgia Tech. I know a lot of big creators have been giving them hype. I really do think that this team is going to be really good. Haynes King coming back, Justice Haynes coming back. It's really it's a big year for Brent Key, and I think he's got the great coaching to do it. Going over to the Big 12, I'd say this is the hardest conference to predict, really and truly, because if you look at the odds, the top 4 teams in the Big 12 have the same odds to win the conference. Even the sports books don't know who's going to win this. This conference is wide open, but I'm going to stick with who I put in my way too early predictions. I do think Texas Tech is going to be in this championship, along with Arizona State as well, going back to the Big 12 championship. I have them both coming in at 10-2. Really and truly, I don't think any 11-1 teams come out of this Big 12, because there is like 8 teams that could make this championship. Right now, I have Arizona State, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas State, Baylor, Iowa State, and Kansas as a sleeper if everything goes right for them. That could make the Big 12 championship. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams. 8 teams. I can't count, that's 7. 7 teams that could realistically make the Big 12 championship. And to be honest, Arizona State had the worst odds to win the Big 12 last year and made it. So I think any team except UCF, fuck them, could win the Big 12 realistically. But I am going to swap my winner. I do think Arizona State gets it done and they go back to the college football playoff. I just trust Kenny Dillingham a lot and trust Sam Leavitt, and I still do think that they have really good weapons out there and are going to be able to manage even without Cam Scatterboo. Going over to the SEC, I have a rematch of last year and the game earlier this year. I have Texas coming into this at 10-2, with losses to Georgia, at Georgia, and Florida in the Swamp. And then I have Georgia coming in this at 11-1, with wins over Texas and Bama at home, but a loss to Florida in Jacksonville. Ignore the sign back there. It's not a homer pick. I do just genuinely think we're going to be really good this year. And Georgia's got a brutal schedule. So do we. But and I do think Texas finally gets over the hump of Kirby Smart. I do think they finally win a second year SEC championship, but finally are able to beat Georgia and get in after losing what would be twice this past year and 3 straight times if they lose again this year. They finally get over the hump and win the SEC. In the Big Ten, I have another rematch of an earlier game in the year, except this one's not in the shoe. I have Ohio State coming into this as the number 1 team in the country at 12-0, and Penn State would probably be in the top 4, top 3 at 11-1. And I do think Penn State finally gets it done. They finally, since they beat Ohio State for the first time since 2016 when they had Saquon Barkley on their team. I think this is going to be a really great game. I think, honestly, all of these conference championships would be really good, a really good game, and I think this would be one of the best Saturdays of all time and the entire year. And I do think Oregon just misses out on the Big Ten championship at 10-2. So this is the seeds and of the conference winners. I have Penn State as the number 1 overall team. They would be 12-1 at this point, with their only loss to Ohio State, who they just beat in the Big Ten championship. I have the number 2 seed Texas. Their losses are to Georgia and Florida, but they just beat Georgia in the SEC championship. I do think unless Clemson goes undefeated 13-0, the Big Ten and the SEC will be the 1 and 2 seed. Big Ten and SEC champion will be the 1 and 2 seed just about 90% of the time. I really do think that. I have Clemson at 4. They would be 12-1 at this point with the ACC championship. That's why I have them over. Who's going to be the 5 seed, getting a bye for the first round. And then Arizona State, I don't have them getting a bye because they shouldn't have had one last year even. But I do have the committee being able to let them have, be able to host a playoff game in Tempe, Arizona. And the team I have getting the last bye is the team that was coming into conference championship week as the number 1 team in Ohio State. I don't think they fall too far. I think they have to go below Penn State, obviously, because they lost, and then the SEC champion. But I think they go just only down to 3 because they'd be 12-1, and their only loss is to Penn State, who's the number 1 overall seed. So I think they only fall to 3. And then number 5, I think, is Georgia, the SEC championship loser. They don't get a bye just due to Clemson being 12-1 and winning the ACC. But honestly, this could be flip-flopped. I do think that the committee sometimes, they got a hard on for the SEC. They could definitely put Georgia as a bye and Clemson as the 5 seed, 1,000%. And then I'm just going to go game by game. This is who is going to be going to Athens, Georgia, to face the Bulldogs. And it's going to be the group of 5 team. I don't think the group of 5 team is anything but the 12 seed this year because of what happened last year. It's going to be UNLV. I think UNLV is the group of 5 bid. As crazy as this seems, guys, they were a game away last year. They beat Boise in that Mountain West championship. They're in. They were a game away. And then now they get Dan Mullen, who I believe is a great coach, and then 2 Power 4 quarterback transfers, albeit it's Alex Orji and the transfer from Virginia. But I do think that Virginia guy will probably win the job and be able to get them into the college football playoff as the group of 5 bid. I think it's going to be the winner of the Mountain West again. I think it's between UNLV or Boise, obviously. I think Boise is going to be really good again as well. I think it's between those 2 teams. And then who's going to be going to Tempe, Arizona? I have Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is going to be very good this year. Brutal schedule. Brutal. Like when Oklahoma and Texas came to the SEC gave Oklahoma the middle finger and gave Texas just basically about everything that they wanted. This schedule is brutal, but I think this Oklahoma team is really good. John Mateer, He's going to have a Heisman caliber season. With his OC, Ben Arbuckle, coming in from Washington State, this team's going to be good. Offense is going to be explosive, and then they have an elite defense. Last year, it was really good. It's just, Jackson Arnold was not able to do a single thing on the offensive side of the football. And I do think they could host. Like, you tell me Oklahoma goes 10-2, I think they're a better team than Arizona State. But I think they're going to want to give a conference championship or champion a hosting game. So I do think that they're going to let Arizona host, and Oklahoma goes to Tempe. And then over at the 7 seed, the next host is Oregon. I think they just missed out on the Big Ten championship. But, I mean, last year they won the Big Ten and kind of got fucked by the committee with having to face Ohio State in the second round. This year, they get to miss the chip, get some extra time off, and get a home game in Eugene for the college football playoff. And I think they're going to face Notre Dame. Notre Dame's going to go 10-2 this year. I think they lose to Miami, but they beat A&M this year. I really just think Notre Dame's a better team than Miami, really and truly. It's just CJ Carr worries me. He should have won that job a long time ago. It just got announced that he won it, but he should have won that job a long time ago, and he didn't. So I do think they're going to start a little slow at Miami, and Miami's going to be able to get them. But I do think they're gonna beat A&M. It's in South Bend, so it's gonna be a really good game. And then also the wide receiver room is much better. It's probably the best one they've had in a long time, especially under Marcus Freeman. They got Will Pauling from Wisconsin. They kept their two best receivers from last year. So really and truly, this is probably going to be the best offense they've had. And I trust Marcus Freeman with the defense 1,000%. I trust anything that man can do. Anyone that can outcoach Kirby Smart in a college football playoff game has my trust. And then my 6th seed, I have the Alabama Crimson Tide. They just missed out on the SEC chip at 10-2. I think, they lose the tiebreaker to Georgia, obviously. I think Texas gets in over them. But I do think this team is a better team than last year, strictly because Ty Simpson is more consistent. Jalen Milroe, you could see in the LSU game and Georgia game, he was the best player on the field. But then you also see games like Oklahoma where he was the worst player on the field. So I just think Ty Simpson is going to be a model of consistency for them, and they're going to be able to game plan based on that, not game plan for something Jalen Milroe can do, and he just doesn't do it all game. But this secondary is going to be elite. They have guys, I think, in their, like, that is their 4th, 5th corner that could start on a lot of teams, really and truly. So if they get some injuries there, I think they can be fine. I think they lose to UGA in Athens, tough game, and then they slip up one more time. But I think they beat Oklahoma, the number 9 seed, and that's kind of like their signature win this year to get them into the college football playoff. Then I have my Florida Gators. They go 9-3. It squeaks us in strictly because we have the number 1 strength of schedule in the country. Our losses that I have is in Death Valley, toughest place to play. In College Station, probably a top 5 toughest place to play, and to the number 5 seed, Georgia. I hated doing that, guys. Shout out all Georgia, my Georgia fan friends. I hated doing that. I really want us to win this year. But that also means I have us beating the eventual SEC champ in Texas in the Swamp. I think really this team is going to be very explosive on the offense. Obviously, DJ Lagway has to stay healthy for this to happen. But, I mean, underrated wide receiver room. Jaden Ball is going to be a 1,200-yard rusher and is very explosive. And then the offensive line is potentially the best in the country. The defensive line is so good. Linebackers really underrated, really good. The only question really is the secondary, and question doesn't mean bad. I just want to see it. I do think we're going to be really good on the defensive end and on the offensive end, and I think we're going to be able to. If we have to win a game 13-10, we can do that. If we have to win a game 38-35, we can do that. But yeah, that is my full bracket right there. So now we can get into the actual games of this. Let me know who you guys think are going to make the playoffs over this team. Like if you have A&M making it, if you have LSU, if you have Miami, if you have Georgia Tech, even something like that. Let me know. But first game, I don't think it's really a shock that we have Georgia beating UNLV. Really, I mean, I don't think this game would be particularly close. I think this game would be 35-10, really and truly. Going into Athens, that is going to be brutal. And now that a group of five team can't earn a bye and play at a neutral site, they're kind of cooked. And because they're never going to let a group of four or group of five team host. Stadium's too small, never going to host, not enough money there for them. Then I have Oklahoma beating Arizona State. I think this Oklahoma team is very good. They're going to I think they're just going to be more physical than Arizona State. I think this is a really good game, though. Kind of like the Texas and Arizona State game last year was a really good game. But I just think Oklahoma's going to be too good, too big, too physical. And then John Mateer. I don't know if there are a lot of people higher on John Mateer than I am. Really and truly, I think this Oklahoma team is going to be really good. The talent is there. It's like the reason that they were so bad last year was because of quarterback, and then now they go get who is probably the best quarterback in the portal in John Mateer, and they bring his offensive coordinator with him, so he doesn't have to learn a new system, nothing like that. Then I have Oregon beating Notre Dame. I think just Oregon's the better team here. Notre Dame quarterback question. I think Dante Moore's a stud. I just think Oregon, kind of has a sour taste in their mouth. So they're gonna beat Notre Dame in Eugene. Tough place to play for Notre Dame. I just really and truly think that that's going to happen. And then I'm going to keep the theme with the higher seeds winning besides Oklahoma. That's the first upset. I'm going to have Alabama beating Florida. As much as it pains me to do. Alabama, really good team. And then Bryant-Denny, really tough place to play. That place is going to be rocking for Florida. It's kind of takes you back to like the 2000s when it was always Alabama and Florida in the SEC championship and all that stuff. It was Saban versus Urban Meyer just about every year. So I do think that Alabama is going to win this game because they're just the more consistent team, the better team, I think, as well. But I wouldn't sleep on Florida. I just think, going into Bryant-Denny, that's tough. It's a tough place to play. So all the home teams win except we finally get our first road team winning, Oklahoma beating Arizona State. Then I have Penn State beating Oklahoma. Penn State, I think, this team is really good. Obviously brought back a lot. Lost Abdul Carter, but this team brought back so much. Drew Aller's back. You guys know I like Drew Aller. Both running backs back. They went into the portal to get a better wide receiver room, which I think they did. And then obviously the defense is going to be good. The offensive line is going to be good because that is Penn State. I think Drew Aller is going to be able to throw the ball to his wide receivers, not like how when in the Notre Dame game they were getting blanketed. That wide receiver room was so bad last year that he was having to throw basically just the Tyler Warren and the running backs. That was it. Then we have Texas beating Oregon. Texas was my national championship pick in the way too early picks. I do think this team is just really good. I'm a believer in Arch. I think Arch is really good. I think he could go pro and be the number one pick pretty easily. And this team is just really good. Their defensive line and their pass rush is going to be the strength of this team. If they get up and are just able to tee off on your offensive line and quarterback, look out. This team could be the best team in the country if they're able to do that. So I have them beating Oregon and Dante Moore, young quarterback there, beating Oregon to move on to the semifinals. Then I have the reigning national champion Ohio State beating Alabama. I just trust this team a little bit more. They have the best player in college football on both sides of the ball in Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. Those teams, those two alone are gross. And then you add in Carnell Tate. I do think Peoples, the running back from Ohio State's really good. Julian Sain took a little longer to win the job than I would have liked, but I do think he's going to be really good. And I think they're just going to be able to kind of overwhelm this Bama team. I think this is a really good game for sure. But I do think that Ohio State is able to make it back to the Final Four of college football playoff. Then I have Georgia beating Clemson. I was a little lower on this Georgia team last time, but I just think they're getting better. Really, the problems last year was that they couldn't run the ball, offensive line, and their defense wasn't up to their standards. I think their defense is going to be really good again this year, and there's no way a Kirby Smart team cannot run the football and block offensive line wise 2 years in a row. Really and truly. I just don't think there is a way that happens. Kirby Smart, UJ probably has the best coaching staff in college football. So I think they're going to be able to overwhelm Clemson. I just think they're the better team. And Gunnar Stockton's not going to have to do a ton because this wide receiver room, I think, is actually pretty underrated. And they're going to be able to run the ball on Clemson. Can Clemson stop the run again this year? That's another question for them. So that is my Final Four. Penn State versus Georgia and Texas versus Ohio State. 3 teams that were in the Final Four last year make it back, a rematch of Texas versus Ohio State last year. That would be fun. And I think that Penn State is going to beat Georgia. I think their run ends there. I think James Franklin gets another big win under his belt. I know a lot of us don't like it. Shout out Beans. I know you're going to be like, Penn State's losing first round to Oklahoma. But I do think he gets it done. This team is just so talented, so good, and so experienced as well. I mean, Drew Allers is his 4th year in college, 4th year starting quarterback. This team is going to be very good. And then Texas, Ohio State. We saw this game last year, ended 28-14. The score doesn't show how close it was. Texas was on the 1-yard line with a chance to tie. Then like a 97-yard scoop and score. Basically just ended it for Ohio State. So I think this game is going to be the game of the year. This Texas-Ohio State rematch of the Week 1 matchup. That Week 1, I think it's going to be a little sloppy. This one, both teams are going to be at their peak. And at their peak, these 2 teams could be the best 2 teams in the country because I think they have the most talented rosters in the country, really and truly. It's probably these 4 teams that have the most talent in the country. You could maybe throw in an Alabama in there over Penn State or something like that, really and truly. But I do think Texas gets their revenge this year and beats Ohio State to move on to the national championship. So if you guys are, here from a long time ago, this was my national championship pick for last year. When we did our playoff predictions, I chose that Penn State and Texas was going to meet in the national championship. I was, they were both in the Final Four, and they both just happened to lose in the semifinals. But I was right there. And I think that this game is going to be really good. It's going to be not low scoring, but defensive battle, but really good offenses as well. And I think, just playoff games just happen to kind of get, or big games like this just happen to kind of get a little more high scoring than you think. Like both of these defenses are really good, really, really good. But both of these offenses are really good, and they're going to be playing their hearts out. Basically, it's for a national championship, right? And the another storyline for this is that one of these coaches will get their first national championship. If it's James Franklin, oh my goodness, you're going to be hearing so much from him and from everyone. If it's Texas, you're going to be nonstop hearing from the entire state of Texas. They're already cocky enough, and if Texas wins the national championship, you will never hear the end of it. So I think this is going to be a really good game. Both really good teams. Arch Manning versus Drew Aller, two potential top 5 selections in the draft if Arch declares. And I think my national champion pick this year is not changing. It is the Texas Longhorns. I think they win 27-21, and they beat Penn State in the national championship, and Steve Sarkisian gets his first national championship, potentially first of many. So, yeah, that is my national champion, guys, the Texas Longhorns. That is my entire bracket. That is my entire conference champions. Let me know who you guys think I missed. Do you guys have Miami in? Do you guys have Georgia Tech in? Do you think Ohio State goes back to back? Do you think Alabama makes it farther? Shoot, do you think Florida wins the national championship? I hope so. And I really do think that this is going to be the craziest year of college football yet. Last year was so good. I mean, who would have thought Notre Dame was making it to the Natty last year? It definitely wasn't me. I had them losing first round to Georgia, and they made it all, or not first round, beating Indiana, but then losing to Georgia, and they made it all the way to the national championship, beating Georgia and Penn State along the way. Two very good teams. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Cam's video is coming out at the exact same time, so when this video ends, go watch his. See who you guys thinks is better. We'll have maybe we'll put out a poll or something like that. See who can win, and we'll come back to this. At the end of the year, see who had their preseason predictions more accurate. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, great rest of your weekend, and peace.